Well, hey, welcome to our show here tonight. Welcome to We'll Sing and We'll Shout. We are back on the Restream, Cheryl, so you'll notice that the Footloose poster is back where it belongs.
Oh, yes, it is.
That is pretty wild. Like the
Mm-hmm.
computer's in the same exact spot doing the same exact thing. You use one program, it's on the left. You use another program, it's on the
On the
right.
right.
Or so yeah, pretty wild. I did make a mistake last night. I was talking about how the you watched that live last night. I was talking about Ellen Christina's home of Ribby and uh, and about it being established in something around 700 CE. And I was not familiar with the whole CE term. I thought it was BC and AD.
That's what it was when we were growing up.
But now CE is the Common Era, and BC is before the Common Era, and it's non-religious, is what it is apparently.
Well, yeah, they wanted to get Christ out of it, and they couldn't stand
So
that.
it's no longer BC before Christ and AD after
Well,
death. Is that what that was? Or maybe there's
yes,
some Latin term that
that's how I
attaches to
always
that.
say it.
So I was wrong. It's not it wasn't 700 before Christ. It was 700 AD or 700 CE Common Era. So just wanted to make that little correction. But I thought that was really cool that she was from the oldest town in Denmark. And she does really look like a little Viking,
Mm-hmm.
little Viking gal. And what's so cool is she is buried right there in the Bellevue Cemetery. Like
Right.
she brings all that history with her and brought those 8 children over here, and they all went to the little Lutheran church there in Bellevue, and that's some pretty cool history. Um, we were just talking before I got on here. Sure, I was looking at my journal from 1984. I was looking for a couple certain things, but one of the things, and we'll talk about this more when we get around to the whole senior year thing. But Dad, when Dad and I kind of had that falling out at the Sandusky County Fair, and I chose to come out to Idaho with you, that was when he sent me a copy of the scriptures. I think it was kind of like a peace offering. Sent me a copy of the scriptures for my birthday,
Mm-hmm.
and in fact, it's this set right here. This is the Book of Mormon from that he'd sent me, and then of course there's a Bible that goes with it. Um, And what the another thing was interesting about that is, of course, I turned 17 on September 4th. Well, I had just moved in with the Crittens days earlier, and I did not get up in the morning and say, "Oh, hey, everybody, it's my birthday. Why don't you bake me a cake?" I
Right.
just I didn't say anything. I'm new here in their home. They've
Right.
made space for me. I just didn't. So I didn't tell them it was my birthday all day long, and they didn't find out until like a day or two later, and they really got on me about not telling them it was my birthday. But
Uh-huh.
so I went all day on
Let's
my
all
birthday.
celebrate me.
Yeah, that's all. Make me a cake and give me some presents.
Right.
So I spent my 17th birthday in relative silence, at least as far as celebration went. But the other thing so I started reading the Book of Mormon shortly after Dad got it, because I was there in Ashton, Idaho at night with nothing to do. And up there, so Jim and Stan, the 2 youngest boys, were in this upstairs bedroom, and they moved them out, and they started sleeping in the living room downstairs,
Oh my gosh.
which when their older brothers lived there, that's probably where they slept anyway.
Right.
This was just a small house where they raised 7 kids.
Yeah.
And so they moved Jim and Stan out of this room for me. So I'm in this upstairs room, and that's where I started reading the Book of Mormon. But it was kind of slow going. And by the time I'd came home in November, maybe I had read First and Second Nephi. I don't remember that for sure, but I will tell you that my journal tells me that on January 12th, I was getting ready to start Mosiah. So I spent, September, October, November, December, and half of January reading up to Mosiah. Now,
Mm-hmm.
that's not really that far, and that's not really that much. But what is really kind of astounding to me is that on the next day, on the 13th, I read 20 chapters of Mosiah. And by the middle of February, I had read the entire Book of Mormon. So from the middle of January till the middle of February, I did a lot of reading.
Yeah, I
I,
guess.
I did a lot of reading in the Book of Mormon, and it was really a very humbling experience, and it really, changed a lot of things. So, but that's not what we're here to talk about tonight. let me give you this little, I'm really trying to get back on my program here. And this was a tough weekend because Bart smoked a brisket. And I knew that this brisket thing was going to be an issue. So Friday, I'm like, okay, I've got to, or no, Saturday, I was like, okay, I've got to really have a good day on Sunday so that I'm ready for that whole brisket situation on Monday. So I'm like, I want to make sure, salad is not like some super important part of the program. It's a fasting program. It's not what you eat program, but salad is very beneficial.
Right.
So I was like, Heidi, I want to make sure I can have a good salad tomorrow. What do we have salad stuff here? And we had everything pretty much except for lettuce, and maybe one or two other things I wanted to grab. So I was like, let's go out here. I had washed our little red Audi convertible. So I was like, let's go out. We were going to go up to the Honda dealer and look at some cars because we're getting ready to trade a pickup truck in and maybe get something different. So we went up to the Honda dealer, and on the way home, I was like, well, what grocery store should we go to? And there's a little Walmart, not a big Walmart, but just a little Walmart grocery store here nearby now. And I was like, well, let's just pop into the Walmart. So we pop into the Walmart, and I start grabbing a few things, and I get over to where the lettuce is at, and there's like no lettuce. There's no iceberg, and the romaine
That's
that was left
crazy. Yeah.
the romaine that was left didn't look very good. So I'm
Yeah.
like, this is how often do you go into the grocery store and there's no
And there's
lettuce?
no
Like this
lettuce.
is the first time in my life that has happened to me,
Right.
at least. So I'm like, okay, so now what we do? And then it dawned on me, the pizza place where Ellen works, I often get their chopped salad, and it's really good. And we get 30% off there because Ellen's works there. And in fact, when she's working, we get 50% off. But she wasn't working, but still, it was like, hey, why don't we just run up there? I'll get that salad and I'll eat it tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So we turn around and we run back the other direction a mile, and we get in there, and I'm walking in the door, and we had been to Rosati's earlier that week with all of um, Heidi's sister and brother were here,
Right.
and then Jody and Di came down. We had a big pizza thing there at Rosati's earlier that week. And I got this deep dish pizza that I really like, thinking that I'd be able to take a couple pieces home and enjoy it during the week. Well, I ate one piece, and I thought everybody else would be eating these other pizzas we got. Well, everybody wiped out my deep dish pizza, which
I
which
bet
is
you were mad.
fine. I mean, they can make more pizza. Not a big
Right.
deal. It just wasn't what I was planning. So then it was like going in the door to get my salad. I'm starting to feel sorry for myself, and it's like, I really missed out on that extra deep dish pizza. Why don't we just, obviously 30% off. Why don't we just get a deep dish pizza while we're
Right.
here too? You
Yes.
know? And so I go up there and I'm talking to this nice gal, and she's like, "Oh yeah, Ellen, yeah, you get the discount." So I ordered my salad and I get the pizza that I want. I'm like, "Oh, Heidi, do you want to get a salad too?" And that way she likes Caesar salad, so we got her a Caesar salad with chicken. And then I'm like, well, I like those cannolis. Let's get, a couple of those. So you can see how this whole thing is snowballing on me.
Yes.
I'm trying to behave and do what I'm supposed to do. But so we order all this and we order it to go. The intention is we're going to take all this home and I'm going to have it for lunch tomorrow. And I'm just going to have, I'm going to be reasonable here. I'm just going to have one piece of pizza tomorrow for lunch so I can get ready for my brisket on Monday. Well, we're on the way home, and that pizza is there in the front with Heidi, and I'm smelling that thing all the way home, and I'm thinking,
Mm-hmm.
this is insane. I am not going to take this fresh hot pizza and stick it in a refrigerator so I can
Right.
have reheated pizza tomorrow.
Right.
Like I'm from Bellevue. This is a little Italian Catholic community. If they knew that I did this, I would never be allowed back in town. Like
So
they
true.
were like, don't even bother coming back here because you're not welcome.
Right.
So I didn't want that on my record. So I was like, "Hi, I'm sorry, but I have got to eat a piece of this pizza."
Right.
So I had a piece of pizza at 10 o'clock at night, and I went ahead and had some of my salad. And now Aaron's laughing at me because he would do the exact same thing, and he knows it. But
Yeah, he wouldn't let the pizza go cold either.
so I had a nice hot piece of pizza, and I think one or two of my other girls had some pizza too. And so I go to bed and totally messed up my fast. but then I get up on Sunday and I fast until after church. And I was kind of thinking I was going to fast till the afternoon, maybe have another piece of pizza, have some salad, and then be ready for the brisket Monday morning. Well, Bart calls and it's like, oh, hey, the brisket got done faster than I thought it would. We want to bring it over this afternoon and go ahead and sample some.
Uh-huh.
And then Victoria wanted to make fried chicken strips for lunch, and she makes really good fried chicken strips. So I
Uh-huh.
ended up having some fried chicken strips for lunch, and then Bart brings the brisket over about 5 o'clock. And so I had chicken strips for lunch, brisket for dinner,
And then you
and
still have pizza and salad to eat.
and uh, and I never even, I think I did eat some of my salad, but I didn't eat any pizza on Sunday. I woke up this morning and I was like, okay, even though we're doing this Memorial Day breakfast, I am not going to eat until noon. I can eat
Right.
my brisket at noon or whatever. And I was doing really well. I was serving everybody the brisket and, back and forth into the house, getting things, whatever, cutting up the strawberries. But Catherine is over there cooking these pancakes, and I was doing fine with the bacon and the brisket. Like, I can wait till noon. I can just reheat. Everything's going to be fine. But Catherine's over there making these pancakes, and she's making them nice and fluffy. Like, Catherine's a really good cook. She knows how to. She's a culinary art student. She knows how to
Right.
cook.
Yep.
So she's making these beautiful looking pancakes, and I'm looking at these things. It's like, that reheated is not going to be good. So
I need one of those.
at 9:30. I break down and I take a pancake in the house and put peanut butter and real maple syrup on it,
Mm-hmm.
which is something we didn't have out on the table for everybody else. But
Right.
and so I eat a pancake, and then it's like, well, I've eaten a pancake. I may as well just. So I go ahead and nail about 2,000 calories for breakfast, and but then I did behave all afternoon until about 4:30, and then I did eat some salad and I ate another piece of pizza.
You're making me
So
hungry. Now my stomach's growling.
so So
Thanks a lot.
anyway, it wasn't quite the weekend that I was planning, but
You know what's
um,
funny is Susan said that guys would come over to the house there in Worcester and they'd spend the night and they'd get up in the morning and she'd make pancakes. And our boys, of course, would go right for the peanut butter, put the peanut butter on the pancakes. So then the friends would try it. So then they'd go home and they'd do it at home. And their mothers would be calling Susan and being like, what did you do to our sons? Why are they eating peanut butter on pancakes?
right.
So she
I
infected the whole town.
I don't know how you eat a pancake without peanut butter.
I know,
Like
right?
I mean, I can do it, but it's like half the experience.
Yep.
So anyway, so yeah, it wasn't quite the weekend that I was hoping for, but I did start my fast at 5:20 today. I'm feeling great. I'm drinking my caffeine-free Inumate. I'm
Hmm.
going to fast till noon tomorrow. I'm going to get, right back on the wagon here, and amazing things are going to happen. So,
I have a
uh,
funny story. I made the unamate tonight for Martin, and I was like, "Oh, he likes it cold," so I thought, "Well, I'll stick it in the freezer." Well, then we went to Allison's to swim, and by the time we got back, it was a unamate popsicle.
right,
So
right,
I had to
yeah,
do it like a baby bottle and put it in some hot water to warm it up.
very good,
Yep.
very good. Well, hey, we are now. What are we here? We are 13 minutes into this. We got to get rocking on this boyfriend. So, please
All
take
right.
it away and tell us all about number 14.
All right. Well, I have a choice tonight, so I'm gonna let you pick, Steve.
Okay.
I have, this is 11th grade still. We've talked about Randy Wilson and Gary Pollock. I still have Martin Hahn and Pat Waldock.
Okay.
So which one should I
Um,
talk about tonight?
I mean, you could almost talk about those two together, but I don't necessarily have a preference. I would say Martin. I mean, Pat was actually more of a real boyfriend,
Yeah,
whereas Martin was
Pat
more of
was more of a real boyfriend. Martin was more of a friend, but
Martin was more
we
of a friend.
but
So
we
I would
did
say
kind of
talk
date.
talk about Pat, but if you want to mix Martin in there, that's fine too.
All right. Well, after I broke up with Gary, Martin took me to prom. So we did actually have a real date.
Yeah. Was
But
there okay? So here's what in my mind. Here's what makes the difference. Did Martin kiss you?
no.
All right, then it wasn't. It may have been hanging out together, but it wasn't a date.
All right.
So
Yeah. I think I would have let him kiss me, but he didn't ever attempt. It was just we were
right.
just
Well,
always friends.
Martin was a
So
good Matt Martin was a good Catholic boy. Not all
yes,
the
he was
Catholic boys in town were good, but Martin was. So
no, but I mean such a Such a dear boy. I just can't even explain. You know what? We did actually have another date. It was when you and I lived with mom in Columbus. Martin was a student at Ohio State, and he came and picked me up and took me to GD Ritzy's for the first time I ever went to GD Ritzy's. It's like, Cheryl, there's this great ice cream place. I got to take you. Martin was a student at Ohio State. Okay, I can
Sorry.
hear myself again.
Yeah, I was just checking our sound. Sorry. Go ahead.
All right. So anyway, so Martin took me to GD Ritzy's, and I got the chocolate Oreo and a mint something or other. Anyway, I discovered Ritzy's ice cream and I still love it. And what's interesting is all the GD Ritzy's have shut down in the whole state of Ohio. And there's one little restaurant still open, and it's right at the end of Garden Road where,
Oh, really?
yeah,
That one.
it's right at the end of Garden Road where that old root beer place used to be.
Yeah, the A&W root beer.
Yeah. And the guy doesn't call it GD Ritzy's anymore because his dad's name was GD. So he just calls it Ritzy's.
Okay.
So anyway, so I've been there. I go, they have really good like Chicago dogs, which I love. And they have the shoestring fries still. And their ice cream is still just as good. They make it homemade right there. And it's just awesome. So anyway,
That was such a cool concept. And I think that summer, once you had that date, we went to GD Ritzy's like weekly,
yeah, I think we
and
went a lot.
they made really good burgers too. They were like smash burgers. They were pretty thin,
Yep.
but they were really good burgers. It was a cool concept. It's amazing how tough it is to run a successful business.
Yeah.
And you would have thought that could have worked, but McDonald's is a tough one. Like
Yeah. It's tough to go against them.
they've got that game figured out, and even though their food is pathetic,
Yeah.
people go buy it. So
Yep. Yeah. So anyway, so Martin and I did have that second date to Ritzy's, but he didn't kiss me then either. So I guess we'll talk about Pat Waldock then. So Pat Waldock was a young man. He was a farm kid, and every year when we would go to the Seneca County Fair, Steve and I would show our Guernsey cattle at the fair, and so for a while we had those like 3 or 4 different barns that were kind of right beside each other at the Seneca County Fair before they built that great big huge one.
yep,
You
yep,
just had like there was the dairy barn and then there was the beef barn. So they were kind of cantilevered towards each other. Like the dairy barn was one direction and the beef barn was the other direction. So whenever I was going down to the causeway or anything to get food, I would always walk through the beef barn on purpose because I knew that cute redheaded boy was in there.
uh-huh.
So I'd walk through the beef barn and I'd always be looking around to see if he was there. And if he was there, I'd just kind of stare at him and I'd just keep walking. And I did this for years. Every year I'd be like, I wonder if that cute boy's over there in the beef barn. So I'd go walk over there and sure enough, there he'd be with his cattle. So my senior year, I actually went out for the queen of the Seneca County Fair. Like I entered the pageant or whatever. And there
Okay.
was only not very many of us, maybe 6 or 7 went out for it. And Amy Weller got the queen and I got first runner up. But I happened to be there in my formal, in my white formal. I think I wore my Cherry Festival dress for that particular pageant. So I happened to be there in my formal and I went over to I think we had washed the cattle and we were going to show the next day. And so there's always someone standing on guard to scoop the poop as soon as the cows poop, because otherwise you're going to have to rewash them again. So nobody happened to be there. So I was standing there and one of the cows pooped. So I picked up the pitchfork and I was starting to shovel the poop. And I happened to be in my long white formal. And so Pat Waldock saw me doing that. And he comes over and he goes, let me help you with that. Like, what are you doing? And so I was like, well, my cow, I got to take care of it. And he's like, okay, well, let me do it. So he did it. And so we kind of met that way. And so then there was another chance I had. I think it was when they did the beef sale, because at the end of the fair, they would sell all the beef cattle, the dairy cattle, you
Right.
packed them up and you took them home with you. But the beef cattle, they would sell at the fair.
Well,
So
he knew he was finding a good woman if she could pitch manure in her dress. So
in a formal gown.
in a
Yeah, I
formal
agree. I
gown,
think I
yes.
had my long white gloves on and everything. So of course I didn't have a crown on because I didn't win. Anyway,
Right. Yeah, let's not go
so
there.
no, let's not go there. Um, so when they were doing the beef thing, he was sitting down on the lower bleacher, and so I just went and sat down beside him, and I just kind of introduced myself, and we talked for a while, and I learned that he was from Attica. And anybody that's from the Bellevue area, if you drive between Bellevue and Sandusky, you see Waldock Farms on the right side. There's a big barn with a big sign that says Waldock Farms painted on it. I'm sure they're related. Um, so I learned that he was from Attica, and somehow I must have got his phone number or something. And my birthday was coming up. So mom ended up calling him and inviting him over for dinner for my birthday as like a surprise for me or something. And so
Okay.
Pat Waldock shows up for my birthday party. It must have been 17, maybe 17th. Well, maybe it was my
Mm,
18th because I was getting ready to go off to college. So it must have been my 18th. I don't know, 17 or 18. Because, well, we're at the end of my junior year. So it must have been my 17th birthday.
right. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So it's my 17th birthday. So Pat Waldock shows up, and while he's there, we're eating around the big table in the dining room. Um, Aaron will remember that big oval table we had in there. And all of a sudden, there's a knock on the door, and I go outside, or somebody goes outside, and they said, Cheryl, there's somebody here for you. And I'm like, Okay. So I go out to the porch, and it's Pete Shelley is there to bring me a birthday present.
Oh, right.
So we're
Yeah.
all sitting at the table, and all of a sudden, I've got another suitor at the door. And Pete had painted this silly poster of a frog laying out in the sun,
Ah,
and the frog had
Cheryl,
like a swimsuit on it.
I remember these things. And this was not the first time that this kind of thing had happened to you, but where two people would show up. But
Yeah, yeah, well,
yeah.
so this time Pat Waldock is just looking at me like, you've invited me for dinner, and now there's another boy showing up, and he's just kind of dumbfounded by the whole thing. So I sent Pete on his way, and kind of took Pat around. Kind of took Pat around the farm and showed him, we had all the granary and all that. And I probably walked him through the barns and everything. And so we
Yeah.
ended up over by his truck, and I think he gave me a birthday kiss.
Okay. There we
Yep.
go. That's a
So
date.
there we go. It happened. And I ended up going to the State Fair Youth Choir um, after that. And Pat actually drove down. I was so homesick. And Pat actually drove down to the state fair and hung out with me one day while I was there because
Mhm.
I was just like, so he came, and I remember, and at the time you didn't have cell phones, so you couldn't really keep track of where somebody was when they were driving down. So
Sure.
when I was at the State Fair Youth Choir, you went for all 3 weeks. At the time, the state fair was like 20, 21 days. Now it's only like 2 weeks. And it was in mid to late August. It wasn't right now. The Ohio State Fair is like the end of July or something. But at the time, we could show our cattle at the Seneca County Fair and then prepare and then show our cattle at the state fair because it was in mid to late August. So I had my birthday, then we
Mm.
went down to the state fair, and so Pat showed up. I'd call him on the phone at night sometimes and tell him how lonely I was. So he told me he was going to come down and visit me, and he did. He actually came down to the state fair and spent the day with me, and we had a lot of fun. And
Can
then
I
I
throw this
think,
update in here? Yeah. Can I throw this update in here? You're correct. I'm surprised by this. The 2026 Ohio State Fair will run for 12 days from
yeah,
Wednesday, July 29th through Sunday, August 9th. That is so early compared.
right?
They used to give all the county fairs time to be done by early August so that they could start the state fair like the second week of August.
Yep,
So that's just crazy. But the
yeah.
problem is now they're starting school
Schools
like in the
start in the middle of August now.
middle of August. So that's why they pushed the state fair
And
like
it
that.
used to be schools didn't start till after Labor Day, so you could do the state fair like the last 2 weeks of
Yeah.
August. So
So
then we could show our cattle at Seneca County, which was usually the end of July, and then we could still show our cattle at the state fair, which would be mid August. But anyway, so I
Sticks is coming, and Weird Al Yankovic will be there, so you won't want to miss that. So anyway,
well
I'll
that
shut up now and let you carry on.
that is exciting. So
Mhm.
I think I went into my senior year at that point, and then I was dating Dobie. Um, so Pat and I just kind of cooled it, and then somehow we kind of kept track of each other, And I think after I broke up with Dobie, I think me and Kathy Deppen ended up driving to Attica. Maybe I saw him at the fair the next year and he invited me to his house. But I remember me and Kathy Deppen driving to Attica and going to Pat Waldock's house and just like hanging out in his garage with him for a while. So it was like kind of this on again, off again romance with me and Pat. And then, but it was usually me that was kind of pushing things and wanting to see him. He was probably the best looking man I ever dated,
Uh-huh.
just extraordinarily good looking and buff.
Well,
In
don't
fact,
tell don't
when
tell
me and
Marty
Kath
that.
when me and Kathy pulled up, he was standing there in his jeans and no shirt. And I was
Ah,
just like, I'm not really like one that goes for that whole thing, you know. I'm not really
right.
all about the sexualization of men, Chippendales and all that. But I'm telling you, that guy looked pretty hot in those jeans, and I'm sure he had cowboy boots on and no shirt. I was like, whoa, that was
Right.
one good looking man right there.
So
So
I remember a time, I think this is correct. I remember a time that you wanted to go see where he lived, and you and I, you didn't go see him or anything, but we drove down
we
there and
drove
drove
out
past
there
his
to
farm,
Attica. Yeah.
and you took me along. That's just a really vague memory. So,
Yeah, and then
yeah.
I took Kathy Deppen one time, and we went out and we actually saw him. We pulled in his driveway, and I don't remember if I warned him I was coming or not. But so then I get home from Rick's college, and I think it was my yeah, it would have been my second year at Rick's. So it was 83, the end of 83, going into early 84. And I get home from college, so probably mid-December, and mom's like, Cheryl, there's someone on the phone for you. And I went over and I picked up the phone, and it was Pat Waldock. And I was like, why the heck is Pat Waldock calling me? We hadn't really been in touch in a while. And he said he'd like to come and take me out for dinner. And I was like, well, sure, that sounds great. So, I'm like, wow, he's chasing me now. I like this. So he came and I wore a real pretty sweater and got all duded up, and he took me to I, I think he took me to a bar for dinner, which was typical Pat. That sounds familiar. So he took me, and I think we even like did some dancing, and we ate at the bar, and then he brought me home and he kissed me. We kind of made out. I mean, by that point, I'm like,
Well,
20,
well,
20 years old. I'm a little bit older lady. So,
right.
we
A
made
little
out
more.
in his car. So that was definitely a date, Steve. Had
Now,
got the whole kissing thing.
I was not in the back seat for that one, just to confirm. So,
No, it was a pickup truck, so definitely not.
right.
Uh, so then he let me out, and I was just kind of like dazed. Dazed and confused is a good word for it. I was so baffled why this all of a sudden this amorous affection from Pat Waldock. So I don't know if he called me or I called him in January just to say, thanks for the dinner and I had a good time and everything. And he said, well, I have to tell you this that I'm going to be getting married. And I was like, what? And he had gotten a girl pregnant in
Oh,
college. And I think it was when he was at the place in Worcester there, that college. He went to that ag college in Worcester.
oh, ATI, where I went. Yeah,
Yeah.
Ohio State
Uh,
ATI. Yeah.
I think it was when he was there. He ended up impregnating a young
Mm,
lady. And
probably wasn't the first time that had happened over there. Yeah.
well, but he knew he was going to have to marry her, and he knew that he and I weren't going to have any more dates. So that's why he had called and invited me to dinner for like one last goodbye to Cheryl, I guess. It
That
was
is
so
quite a
funny.
story.
I know,
That's
right?
pretty good.
Yep.
That's pretty
So
good.
that's my Pat Waldock story.
Yeah.
But and
Hey,
he did have a daughter. He ended up having a daughter. I think maybe I did like get in touch with him after his daughter was born and chatted with him a bit. And he said that he was married and had a daughter, and we
now
had like a conversation about that. But
do you know, is he still married to that same gal today? Is that
he's not. They ended up divorced, and he's remarried to a different gal because we did end up. When I knew I was moving back to Ohio, I tried to see if I could find an email for him, and I was able to. He still lives in Attica. He's got some sort of a business in Attica. Might be sort of like the thing like Jeff Ziegler's doing, like
okay?
inseminating cattle kind of thing. Might be
Okay.
something like that. But he's
Yeah.
still got a business in Attica, and I did get his email address, and we kind of emailed back and forth for, a month or so, and just said, hey, how's your life? What's been going on? And so anyway, so as far as I know, we're still friends, but it was just But I did finally get that guy that I used to look at every year in the beef barn. I finally got him to go out with me, so I was pretty proud of myself.
Pretty cool.
Yep.
Pretty cool. Hey, let me share this story from the fair, and then we'll wrap up because we're 30 minutes into this. But um, when I was fairly young in 4-H, there we were sitting in the dairy barn, and this was the old dairy barn. They had just one aisle down the middle and cows on
Right.
both sides.
Yep.
And the some leader came in there, whatever, and was like, "Hey, let's get you guys over to the show ring. There's going to be a dairy judging contest." Now, I'd been around the Guernsey cows growing up, and obviously Grandpa and Dad were excellent judges of animals and knew their cows.
Yeah, and in fact, Grandpa was judging at the fair quite often.
Grandpa was certainly, a world-class judge of Guernsey dairy cattle, but none of that
Qualified.
knowledge had seeped down to me. Nobody sat down with me and said, hey, when you look at a cow, this is kind of what you're looking for, and
Right.
this and that or whatever. I had none of that. So, they're like, hey, let's go judge these dairy cows, and they were actually dairy heifers. I can't remember exactly how this was organized, but maybe there were two different groups of animals that you would judge.
So they hadn't
And
freshened yet.
and so we went over there, and it was all young girls. I want to say teenage, but some of them weren't even maybe teenage girls leading these dairy heifers for us to judge.
So like
Well,
FFA girls or something.
well, not no. I'm gonna like not even FFA girls would have been 14 and older. I would say some of these were like my age. How old would I have been at the time? Yeah, like you go into 4-H when you're like 9 years
14.
old, right?
Oh yeah, it is younger. I was thinking of young
Yeah,
men's and young women's, but you're right, like maybe 12.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think you go into 4-H when you're like 9 or 10.
Okay.
So anyway, I'm thinking I'm around 10 years old, and some of these girls that are leading these animals are my same age.
Mm-hmm.
But I know nothing about these cows. Like I'm like this means nothing to me. But
Right.
I'm not a judge of dairy cows at this point at all. But I am a pretty darn good judge of girls, and
Right.
so I lined these cows up based on how cute I thought the girls were, and because I had nothing else to go on.
Right.
You know, I'm working with what I've got here.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did this for both classes. And then the rankings came out, and I'll be darned if I wasn't number two.
Uh-huh.
I came in second place on the
I bet,
preliminary
I
round.
bet Grandpa was so proud of you.
So yeah, Dad and Grandpa had heard about this,
Uh-huh.
but I confessed to Steve Boehm and Jeff Ziegler. I don't know if I told them what I
How
did.
you ranked them?
I think I did. And
Uh-huh.
so Jeff was cluing me in on, well, you say things like, well, she's straight from, pins to hooks, and,
Mm-hmm.
and that, he gave me like a half a dozen different
Some of
things
the
you might say.
technical terms. Yeah.
Yeah, he gave me half a dozen different technical kind of things you might say about why you lined them up one way or the other. And so the next part of the contest was you would sit down with the judge and give him your reasons for why you had lined him up this way. So I went in there and gave them the reasons that Jeff had kind of primed me on, and
Uh-huh.
I didn't overtake the first place winner, but I did maintain my second place ranking.
Uh-huh.
Um, by and so I got a ribbon for my dairy judging skills there that year at the fair, and it was all based on my ability to line the girls up. So so
That's an awesome story.
I never told dad and grandpa, because they were like, boy, I'm a chip off the old block on that one.
So proud of you.
So proud of you. But you know that dad and grandpa would have been just as able to line the girls up based on good looks too.
Oh, of course they
And
would have, yes.
and while their dairy judging skills didn't necessarily transfer down, I think a lot of their girl judging skills
Yes.
transferred directly down. So
Grandpa
kind of
never
an
hesitated to flirt with a cute waitress. If we were going to the L&K and there was a cute waitress there, oh
yeah,
yeah, he'd flirt. He was funny. I know where I got my flirting skills from, and it wasn't
right,
Dad.
right, right. So yeah, that's my story there from the Seneca County Fair. Um, Cheryl, tomorrow is Mom's 86th birthday.
I know. I told the kids that today. I said my mom would have
So
been 86 tomorrow.
so I think tomorrow we share some stories about Mom, some history about Mom, some stories about Mom.
And we
I'd
could get
love to
into
get
some pretty funny stories about Mom.
I would love to get Aunt Tanya on here tomorrow, but
Yeah.
let's get David on here tomorrow,
Okay.
and the three of us can talk about mom.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I love it.
So, so hang on the line here, but let's let everybody go. We're 35 minutes into this. Thank you for joining us tonight. I think this was a lot of fun tonight. I think we had a lot of good things to share,
Mhm.
and we will be on tomorrow night at our regular time. Take
And
care.
good old Pat Walduck's eyes are burning. I mean, ears are burning.
I'm sure they are. I'm sure they are.